So the graduate market in 2021. Well, basically what you're seeing here is what has happened between 2019 and 2021. And unsurprisingly, I'm sure you all would realise COVID did hit the graduate market. Not quite as severe as many thought. It was actually only down 12%. But these are the sectors that particularly have struggled. So you can see the kind of big ones down the bottom. Only 12 out of the 15 sectors actually are down. But you can see the bigger ones in the bottom right-hand corner there, like your chemicals and pharmaceuticals, oil and energy, engineering, banking and finance, and so on, so on. And that's it, not to then necessarily influence you about what you then do. It's just so that you're aware, okay, that's interesting. Between that period, it was down. What's happening now? Are there many jobs? And then how do I get one of those jobs? And here is a list of actually the numbers of vacancies. So if you add together all of the top 100 graduate employers and pop them into their different sectors, this is how many jobs they have. And I like to show this because I don't think graduates always necessarily know either how large or how small certain sectors are. And as you can see, there are some sectors that are very big, like public sector at kind of 5,500 nearly, but also some really kind of quite tiny ones. And I always find consulting quite interesting because it's one of the most popular areas to work in for graduates. And as you can see, there's only 255 jobs. So all of these slides I'll make available to you afterwards. So don't worry if you're kind of scrubbing to jot things down or take screenshots. You'll be able to have access to all of this after the presentation. I'll email it to Jack so that you can have it. The green arrows are obviously showing sectors that are growing. Red arrows are the ones that are declining based on last year's numbers. But as you see at the bottom, about 21,000 positions across the top 100 firms. So that's the micro picture. When you look at the macro picture, the kind of big picture of UK students, there are actually 400,000 of you coming out of UK universities. And you saw there that the top 100 firms are recruiting, well, 21,000, so just over 20,000 graduates. Again, not to put you off going for these big graduate schemes, you should be going for them. If you know how many positions and then you understand the selection process and what they recruit against, you are going to be in a much better position than lots of other graduates out there. So if you're interested, kind of where do the 400,000 go? Well, 70,000 head towards doctors, nurses, teachers and vets. 30 to 35,000 head towards kind of big graduate schemes, official structured graduate programs, of which the top 100 are 21,000. But it's this third bullet, which is the kind of biggest area of concern, particularly for graduates at the moment. A quarter used to go into direct hire, into local, national, big, small, medium-sized employers. And as you know, most businesses are closed at the moment, have furloughed staff, and that's the area that is going to be of concern. And that's the shame, because that's where so many grads go. And until the economy starts to recover, I don't think we're going to see growth in that particular area. And here are the top 100. It's just a good place to start. If you're watching this and you've got no idea what you want to do when you finish university, it's a good place to start just to get an idea of what the different brands are, what the different sectors are. You know, who are the biggest recruiters, who are the most popular recruiters, and there'll probably be some names in here that you don't know, that it's worth just doing a bit of investigating and a bit of research around. But do be careful, because the number of applications to some of these big players are fairly huge. And you can see there the civil service fast stream, 65,000 applications, PwC nearly 100,000. And that's my first big depressing statistic to tell you, is that 98% of graduate applications get rejected. I hate it. Graduate recruitment that I came into 25 years ago has become graduate rejection. It's horrible. I want to make sure you are not one of those 98% and that you're in the 2%. And the way that you do that, and I'll keep saying this, is researching your employers, researching the transferable skills that they recruit against, and then getting practice at the assessment centres that you're going to have to go through. And today is the first step in that. So if you are interested in public sector, that's the sector that does have a lot of jobs at the moment, nearly 5,500. If you haven't thought about public sector, I like to show this chart on the right-hand side, because it just gives you an idea as to why, and it's actually 20,000 students across the top universities, including Liverpool. So it just gives you ideas of why students are applying to the public sector. So if some of these things resonate, it could be that public sector is right for you. If you want to make a difference, if you want good long-term career prospects, if you want fantastic training and development, prestige of jobs, all of those are very positive reasons as to why public sector is popular. On the left-hand side, you can see the top 10, and you can see that this year, actually about 49% of graduates are interested in applying to public sector. So it's definitely increased in terms of popularity. So to summarize the market data, before I head into kind of the meat of the session around assessment centres and kind of the selection processes, here's the latest data from a couple of weeks ago. So in 2020, it was down to 12%, but we're predicting 2.5% growth this year. Public sector, obviously very dominant. Starting salaries haven't changed for the 8th year in a row across the top 100. Actually, across all graduate positions, the starting salary average is around 21,000. But applications went bonkers this year, up 41%, and certain sectors were even higher than that. That's the average. And nearly all programs did finish and close their applications early. So if you're a second year watching this, it's really important that you start thinking now about what you want to do so that you can be ready to apply and ready to be the best you come September of 2021, so that you're ready for intake 2022. Internships are really important. This one we didn't predict in the sector, but a third of all of the jobs this year have gone to students that did a virtual internship with employers last year. And that figure of a third has actually been maintained over the last 7 or 8 years in graduate recruitment. So basically what it means, certainly there are certain sectors where this is more prevalent than others, but things like finance, banking, accounting, all of these areas, actually getting an internship in between your second and third year, or if you're a 4-year course, doing it in your penultimate year, can be very, very important for you to be able to get a graduate position. So if you are in your second year, you might want to think about applying for an internship. If you're watching this in your first year, do think ahead and get ready for when you need to apply kind of this time next year for your penultimate year, as it were. We don't know the numbers on summer internships, but certainly I'm hearing, and you can see the numbers there, that big graduate employers are planning to do these face-to-face. So whilst half will do them virtually, half will actually do them face-to-face. The Institute of Student Employers, which actually looks at more than the top 100 firms, has 300 odd firms in its books. Very similar data you can see there. Applications up, reduced numbers of vacancies. Bottom right are the sectors that struggled the most: retail, FMCG, construction, digital. And the top right, you can kind of see that, yes, just like high flyers, the blip in 2020 was not as big as 2008 when we had the big economic recession a while ago. So their data, very similar, down 12%. They think possibly recruitment might head back a bit. So if you're a final year watching this, they do think that when the economy opens up, a lot more jobs will become available. And PwC, who have done their kind of economic update, and I think this is actually spot on, are saying that it will be the middle of 2023 before the economy gets back to pre-COVID levels. So whilst that might be good news if you're a first year or second year watching this, do remember though, you're going to have the 2020s that didn't get a job that are still trying to find something, the 2021s that are graduating without jobs that will still be looking, and so on, so on. So it is still going to be quite a competitive marketplace over the next few years.